Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Clinic Growth Secrets Show. This is your host, Jeff Van Kampen. This is the show where we teach you how to get more patients, make more profit per patient, and keep the patients as long as humanly possible. We've got some individuals today who have a lot of success in the wealth space, helping docs make more money, keep more money, manage their reputation. So it's going to be quite the doozy for you. We're going to try to knock out a bunch of stuff that's valuable, tactical, and actionable for you guys here in about the next 35 to 40 minutes. Before we do get into the goods, just a quick reminder to pay the fee. We're not going to ask you to send us donations. We're not going to ask for money, for Venmo or a check. But we will ask if you get value from these guys on the show today. Please share it with somebody in the field who also needs to hear it. Our show has grown really massively only through word of mouth. We do very little promotion of the show, so we appreciate you guys sharing that. And I think you're going to be in for quite a treat today with these two guests we have on. And so without further ado, I wanted to welcome Justin and Victor from Big Life Financial to the show, guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very
Our
much.
pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Of course, we're going to get into all things financial. Real quick, and before we do, I want to make sure these guys know who you are and your track record. Let's start with a 30-second bio. We'll go with Justin, then we'll go to Victor. These guys want to know a little bit about you guys.
Yeah, so I'm Justin Maxwell. I'm a partner in Big Life Financial, and I am a husband. I'm a father. I have three very rambunctious boys. I'm out of Salt Lake City, and I'm just really excited about the opportunity to help doctors reach their full potential when it comes to their wealth potential. And the way that we do that is different and unique than a lot of other firms that they might have been associated with. So I'm excited to dive into how we do that today. But thanks for letting me be here, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Victor?
I'm Victor. Pleasure to meet all of you. Glad to be here with Jeff. Jeff is awesome. We love Jeff. And so a little bit about me. I'm also a husband, proud father of three as well. I've got two little babies, two little girls. And so they're are the light of our life and reason I do what I do. I am very proud to be part of the team at Big Life Financial. Been with Big Life Financial for about a year and a half, and just very blessed to get to learn from Justin and Derek. And yeah, echoing what Justin said, just helping docs get to maximize their potential, maximize their wealth, maximize their life, and their ability to create impact in the world around them is a big reason of why I do what I do and why we do what we do. And so we just want to make sure that we're providing value in as many ways that we can and getting docs the results that we know that we can get them.
100%. Love it. And with the today's topic of conversation, we talk a lot about a lot of things on the show, mostly related, if you're an avid listener, to patient acquisition, getting people in the door, helping convert those patients to care, a lot of cash-based style. Today, we're going to take a shift and talk a little bit about wealth. And so what these guys have done is they've basically created programs within their business to be hyper-categorized to help chiropractors really change the way they think about money and the way they really operate in their financial life. And you guys have a principle called the wealth shift that you guys like to call it. That's part of your program. Let's start by talking about that and how you're really helping these guys change their mindset around money.
Yeah, this is a really important topic. The reason it's so important is there's so many people like what you're doing, Jeff, in helping them acquire more patients. That comes when you acquire more patients, you retain that patient, you service that patient, that comes with more wealth. And so many chiropractors utilizing your service and money-making strategies where they make more money over time, they move into a new layer or a new level of income that puts them out of range of a lot of advice that they're getting. So the first wealth shift that each individual has to make is they have to start viewing themselves outside of the middle class mindset or the middle class lifestyle that they've lived in. They grew up probably middle class. Most of the doctors didn't grow up very lavishly. They've moved into this level where they're now making 100, 200, 300, 500,000, $1 million a year. That's not middle class wealth anymore. But you have to realize that 95% of the population is middle class. Like it's a very like middle class or less. So they're moving into a layer of wealth that a lot of the strategies they're hearing around the way they should handle their taxes, around the way they should invest, around the way they should handle their practice are all middle class strategies. But if they view themselves in that mindset still that I'm a middle class person, then they're going to stay middle class, and those strategies are going to result in middle class outcomes. So the first shift you have to make is make the shift into actually believing and knowing that you're not middle class anymore, and knowing that you're worthy of different strategies, and knowing that you're worthy of going bigger, and it's okay to go that big, and it's okay to have money. And it's a shift that you have to make, because you can't view yourself as a middle class person anymore if you're wanting to reach your full wealth potential.
That's excellent. So the first step is believing, as usual, believing you're worth more than you currently are, and being. You talked about one thing in particular that I think a lot of people find is when they start making decent income, you get to this weird phase where you make a good amount of money, but because the taxes are so high, you're not making actually enough money. It becomes like you're getting robbed of it, you know? And so what happens is people are not prepared on how to handle that kind of stuff, which was one of the elements you talked about. I guess for you guys in particular over at Big Life, like, let's say a doctor, a lot of our listeners are probably between $0 and $1 million a year, many
Yeah.
largely cash-based offices, right? I mean, what are some tactical things that you guys would kind of dive into and really take a look at within these offices to see what kind of arbitrage and opportunities exist?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the way I'm going to take one step backwards to help them. I want people to picture something really clearly in their mind, because this is something that I think a lot gets lost in it. And you hit on it a little bit. Is you start making good money, things are feeling right, but at the end of the day, you've made all this extra money, but it feels like I'm still making what I did when I was making 100 grand or 150. Like, I've made more money, but I feel like I make exactly what I was before. And so the visualization I like to put in people's head is just imagine a pipe that flows. Just we can describe it. It comes up out of the ground, it takes 90-degree turn, it stops right here, and at the end of the pipe is a large bucket. That pipe has water flowing through it, but underneath that pipe is a series of buckets. The reason there's buckets underneath the pipe is because water leaks out. So water isn't actually, not all the water is making it to the final bucket. The
Mhm.
reason that so many doctors are making more money but feeling like they're in the exact same spot is because they're only working with the water that actually made it to the final bucket. But all of the water that was created by their genius. It was created by implementing systems like what you help people implement with the acquisition and the new clients and the new income, all that revenue. A lot of it ends up leaking into the buckets underneath. So it makes people feel like I'm still middle class. I'm not making a lot. And they don't, they get trapped in, well, that's my results. I guess that's just the way it is. But the reality is if you can learn to plug those leaks or fix those leaks in the pipe, now all those plugs and that fix in the water ends up in the final bucket, and to accelerate how big everything gets.
Mm.
And so our whole focus at Big Life Financial is how can we fix those leaks so we can get more water in the final bucket. So we're not just focused on how can we grow that more. Yes, we help people grow that and make sure that it's maximized and getting the highest rates of return possible, but it's not our huge focus, because if you're only working with a limited amount, there's a maximum ceiling on what you can actually do with that. So it makes people believe I'm stuck. But if you can get more water to it, now all of a sudden it opens up more possibility where those dollars are also growing, and it expands your capacity of how big you can actually go. So one of the primary areas we always start with people is, how tax efficient are you? Are you utilizing a middle class accountant, or are you utilizing someone that's actually servicing successful business owners that's making $500,000 a year in revenue in the practice? Because there's a difference, that they're not the same. Most middle class accountants service middle class W-2 employees. That's not the person that should be servicing you. So that's the first area that we start is, how tax efficient are you? How can we plug that leak and get all those tax dollar savings into that final bucket? And that alone will change people's wealth outcomes long before it, excluding everything else that we could do to plug leaks. But tax is the huge one, and that's a big area to start.
Absolutely. Well,
100%. I think it goes to the principle that, like, we've all heard, it's not just about how much money you make, but it's about how much money you keep. And so that's why, like, in very simple terms, I call it, we do financial optimization, because we're just trying to find ways to help business owners, to help our docs keep more of the money that they're already making. They're making great money, and oftentimes it's generational money, but sometimes it doesn't feel like generational wealth has been created from that, or doesn't feel that way. And so it's about helping them keep as many dollars in the business, in their own personal pockets, in their family's wallets as possible, through, plugging these leaks in the pipe that Justin mentioned.
I don't think a lot of doctors realize that most doctors that like have a pretty decent size. Now, when I say decent size practice, like I'm just talking like a $500,000 revenue practice, which isn't like massive. It's I would call that pretty, not a little bit above typical, but not that outrageous to reach. Like those doctors oftentimes are probably going to earn over their lifetime 14 to 15 million dollars in total income paid to them. And so it's not about how do you grow the little amount of money. It's how can I keep more of that 14 to 15 million with me versus letting it just disappear into taxes or student loan debt or any other myriad of spending that happens. And then if you can learn how to keep more of that, now all of a sudden you're in a very different spot. And your maximum in wealth isn't 3 million, maybe it's 5 to 6 million or 7 million instead, just because you kept more of what you had created.
Makes so much sense. Would you say those are the primary two things you guys would peek at right away? If you look under the hood, you're looking at taxes, you're looking at student loan and how they're paying that down, that type of stuff, or were there specifically for chiropractic, obviously?
Yeah, so the taxes is number one. Like there's there's so many inefficiencies in the tax world, and it doesn't stem from having bad accountants. It's just that accountants are limited in what they can do. So you have to start viewing the tax world not through the eye of one person, but through the eye of a team. So if you have a tax team, you have a group of professionals working for you, that's going to maximize your tax situation. That's how you save taxes. It's not through trying to find the better accountant. So we meet people all the time that have just accountant hopped all over the place because they're trying to find the person that's going to save them the most. And they'll save them 1 year, but then they can't repeat it the next year. The reason that happens is accountants aren't the end all be all when it comes to the tax world. So you have to move into it. You have to shift that shift again, shift in from a tax person into a tax team. And that's how you maximize tax savings is you have a group of professionals that help you save taxes. But taxes is one. The other one that's a big miss for people is the way they handle their personal cash flow. So most people don't have a system for their personal cash flow. The system is this. I make money. That money goes into my checking account. I spend money, and then I save what's left over. That system of making money, spending money, and saving what's left over results in people typically saving 5% of their income. 5% of your income is not creating generational wealth, and it's not going to help you push your boundaries. So you have to create a cash flow system. You have to implement a new system into the way cash flow enters your life. Otherwise, you're never going to get that default system results in too much excess spend. Like you're just going to spend it without you thinking about it. We call it unconscious spending. So you have to implement something that takes out unconscious spending from your life so that you're saving more without you thinking about it. So it happens automatically for you. The system that we help people implement typically results in people saving 20 to 30% of their income. And that will result in the ability to actually create generational wealth.
Genius, genius. If we could linger on that for 1 second, would you say, obviously, with people kind of mismanaging their cash flow between like their business and personal, would you say people are in some situations, just for listeners, possibly sending too much capital to their personal account and it becomes easier to spend instead of maybe keeping it in like, high yield accounts inside the business side? Like, I guess, is that kind of like what we're referencing here?
Yeah. So the problem is, honestly results from just human nature in general. So humans as a species, you could say, the way I like to view it is if you take a time step back in the past, if you're viewing the way that people used to acquire wealth, we'll just call it through hunting, like back, we'll go way back. When our ancestors hunted, they'd kill an animal, they would consume that entire animal. They'd use every piece of it because they didn't know when or if they'd ever have the opportunity to kill again or to hunt again, to eat again. So that nature of consumption, of consuming what we kill, is still present within us. But now it's being applied to the way we handle finance and money. So we kill, we get paid via our business. So we get money from our business and we consume it because we're not sure if it's going to repeat. So we're feeling safe. It gives us satisfaction. So we have to remove ourselves from the money equation, the money system. So the key is not necessarily like how much they're paying themselves or where they're putting it. It's that they don't have an automated system that takes away the human nature from the decision making. So instead of you being the primary decision of how much you're saving on a given month, because if you're given the choice between, well, I want to go hang out with my friends or go to this thing or go to this event or go do this or buy this versus saving money, the impulse decision is to go consume it with that because it's funner, it's safer, it makes you feel like you're accomplished. So most people don't save enough. If you take that decision out of your decision making by implementing a decision that automatically money comes into your system, it automatically distributes to saving and spending. Now you're not making that decision. It's already been made for you as money flows in. It splits off automatically, saving, spending. Oftentimes you'll hear it called pay yourself first. The problem with pay yourself first is if you're the decision maker on pay yourself first, you're probably going to always lean towards always paying yourself for spending more than for saving. So you have to remove yourself from that decision so that money comes in, flows up automatically to savings, flows down to spending. Now you can spend all you want from your spending bucket, but you've already removed for savings.
Right.
The key is
Yeah.
removing yourself and creating automation versus trying to do it on your own willpower.
Love that. See, I told you guys this one was going to be good today. That was good right there. You know, fighting the human tribal nature, just like marketing. You know, play to human behavior, find ways to say, hey, I can't change the way my brain thinks, but I can change my environment so that I can't be forced to make poor decisions when it comes to my cash flow. You know, that was good. Automated systems. Terms of clients saving money, is that more so like just like rules within bank accounts, like send this kind of money here? We don't need to get into all the goods and tactical stuff too, but if we could give one tactical thing about, hey, someone's listening, they're like, hey, I would like to create an automated system to start saving some capital. Like, what's one easy thing that people can do to kind of get that process started on their own side?
Absolutely.
Really,
Yeah, we went, or go ahead, Justin.
no, you go, Victor. You go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a principle that we use kind of called like the wealth reservoir. And so we have that be the account that income flows into. And so that is like an independent account that then will feed their spending account, feed their savings. And so it goes into that account first. And you can set automations. There's some banks that do it. There's some softwares that do it. And so essentially what you're doing is you have all income sources pile into your wealth reservoir. And then you know what your monthly nut is, right? Everybody knows exactly how much they need on a monthly basis to live, and then some, right? We want to have some flexibility. We're not trying to live on beans and rice here, right? And so essentially outside of that wealth reservoir, you have what you need to make your monthly nut sent to your spending account. And in the months that you over and above you overachieve, say a practice is doing 15K a month or something, but they have a good month, they do 20, 25, 30K in a month. That money doesn't automatically go to their spending account up here. It stays in their wealth reservoir and allows them to then make conscious spending decisions with that money.
Very, very good. And we have, so individuals can set this up at their own bank. It just needs to be a separate bank account that's separate from I recommend it being completely different from their current bank account. So they go to a different bank, they set up a new bank account. In that bank account, all the money flows. And then from that bank account, you just set up automations to send to spending, to send to savings. We have some technology through some phone application that makes it really simple and easy for us to help people with. But if someone wants to do this on their own, they can do it. You just have to put in the work, set up the new bank account, and then create the automations from that bank account to automatically spit out what you're going to send to each spot.
Absolutely genius. I
And
love
so the
that.
power of the strategy comes in capturing the excess dollars, right? And so because especially as business owners, as the income fluctuates up and down, you want to know that predictably, reliably, you're going to be able to, make your monthly expenses. But in the months that you're able to go over and above, you want to be able to have conscious control over that cash flow and not unconsciously spend it.
Well
One
said.
of the big things around this, and this, I know we keep going down this topic, but it's this idea that I'm okay. Like the reason budgeting kind of sucks life out of people is it restricts people into thinking like, oh, I have to sacrifice my lifestyle in order to do this. And if you ask people to sacrifice too much, they end up hating it and they end up stop doing it. But if you put this system in place, you're not trying to limit how much you're spending. You're actually trying to maximize your spending in your lifestyle while not, but still, you're still having the savings happen for you. So it's not about restricting and being scarce. It's about living abundantly. So it's a different mindset shift than trying to take away. It's trying to think differently. It's that wealth shift again, where you're trying to not think about how can I be as restrictive as possible and take away from my lifestyle. It's how can I make my lifestyle as big as possible while still creating this savings bucket over here. It's a different shift of thinking.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for sure. I mean, it's an offense and defense game. Obviously you want to maximize how much, income you can create for yourself and your family and just cash flow in general. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, how do we, back to your point, how do we avoid the ancestral kill things and eat all of them instead of kill our own money, get all our money and spend it all.
Right.
So I think that's absolutely great. Um, Tactical stuff for all you guys on here today. That's for sure. I mean, things that we can do right now to start saving some income inside the practice. I want to take a little bit of time to highlight something you guys are recently working on. A little bit more about your wealth, or excuse me, your reputation management for docs. You guys have a new program you're working with them to help them with reputation management. That's just different kind of reviews and testimonials and that kind of stuff. Let's dive into that right now, and then we can kind of bridge off that.
Definitely 100%. What we found is a lot of our docs aren't fully taking advantage of the power of having a online presence, specifically when it comes to having good Google reviews, both quality and quantity of reviews. So 5-star reviews and having a lot of them, right? And so we kind of wanted to offer that as a service to docs. Office, but it's also going to take a lot of the weight and responsibility off of the shoulders of their CAs and of the doc themselves, because it can, the way that we set it up is it can run in the background practically automatically, hands off. And so our goal is to help increase the quantity of reviews and increase the quality of reviews, and thereby get the office more traffic, more patients, because they're going to have a better online presence, they're going to have better brand authority, they're going to have just overall better reputation in the community, because of the quality and quantity of reviews that they have.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's one of the things too for our clients and our listeners that we do try to preach a lot about is, number of testimonials, number of reviews. I think when a lot of offices have, they grow through word of mouth and referral and that kind of stuff. And that's great. But then when they want to add like something else, like let's just say like social ads, Google ads, any sort of like actual advertisement where somebody's not being referred in, that person comes with a little bit less trust, a little bit less, trust with the office, trust with the doctor, which ultimately leads to a tougher unquote sale. And so the more testimonials you have, the more reviews you have, the easier it is to bridge that gap. So that is very in alignment.
100%.
We always tell our docs too, try not to be one of those guys or gals that that are in every testimonial with your client. And it sounds like you have a gun to their head forcing them to do the testimonial. It's like, get them
Right.
to do it on their own time. So yeah, I think reputation management for what you guys do is massive, because at the end of the day, people will look at reviews first. We live in the Amazon world nowadays.
And just as a side note, a lot of people don't understand this piece of it, but when it comes to the value of your business, so if you're ever looking to sell, which every practice should be looking to move towards an exit at some point, it doesn't have to be in the next 3 years, it could be 20 years from now for some practices, but at some point you're going to look to sell, and key factors in your valuation, a lot of times people point to the numbers, the financial data of like what's the EBITDA, what's the numbers coming in, what's the numbers coming out, what's the value of the practice that way. But actually 70% of the value of your practice is what we call in the intangible capitals. And one of those intangible capitals is your social proof. How much do your patients like you? How much evidence of that is found online? How much can you prove that people actually like showing up to your practice? Because if someone wants to buy you, they want to buy you because you have a good patient base. And if you can't prove they have a good patient base, they're not going to give you the highest value. They're going to lower your value to something that you're not going to like as much because you don't have that in place. And so this can help you on that side of things. So it does have a financial impact in the future for you to have these things settled and in place so that you have those pieces financially or on they're harder to identify. It's not a number, but it's something that can be pointed to as social proof that we actually have clients that like being here.
Makes a lot of sense. If you're handing over, especially a practice to another owner, they're going to wonder, the first thing they're going to wonder is, hey man, when this doctor leaves, are these patients all going to go with them? Which could massively increase or decrease like the multiple. Let's linger on this one for a sec too, because this has been really, really top of mind. So we have listeners and clients and people that come into our world that are in that tail end of their practice. They're looking to sell it, they're looking to exit it. Maybe they have a plan, maybe they don't have a plan. A lot of people end up having a personality driven business, where the doctor serves everybody, and they're in a position right now where they can't even foresee getting really not a ton of money, if any money really, for their practice, because it just might blow up. So I guess from you guys' standpoint, like, let's talk a little bit about the exits. Not that that's everybody's strategy, but how can a doc really kind of prep themselves for sale if that's what the end game may look like?
Yeah, you made some really, really powerful points in your statement just there. We believe that we need to shift again from just viewing exit as something that's being thought of way down the road to always being exit ready. Like I could exit my business 2 years from now. I could exit it 6 months from now. I could exit it 30 years from now, but I'm going to be exit ready. I know what value comes in. I know what things are what makes my business valuable. I know how it works. But the reason you need to think that way, you need to make that shift, is what you just said at the very end when you just spoke, was so many doctors have created themselves as the business. So if you step away, all the patients are going with them. So the value of your business is almost nothing. You're not going to get anything of any that type of value. Maybe you'll get a one-time multiplier. Like if you make $500,000 a year in profit, that goes to you as being paid as the business. Maybe they'll pay you for that. But other than that, you're not going to get much out of it, which means that you have to have had all your wealth created outside of your business. And so many chiropractors don't do that either. So now what happens is you have this chiropractor who's been living on this great income their entire life. They step away from their business, and now they're living and surviving on Social Security. And they're living for the last 15, 20 years of their life in a far different environment than they ever were before. The reason being exit ready is that should be a part of your mentality, is that is a huge potential substantial amount of money that can enhance the ability to survive when you step away. So no, it's not dependent upon you. So you have to create a business, not a personality business. So you have to become the CEO of your business. You have to have associates that are not everything's tied to you. The patients don't love you, they love your business. And that's a huge shift that people need to make. It requires work. It doesn't just happen overnight. Like there's systems and groups out there that you and I are associated with, like with the Remarkable Practice, that can help business owners do that. But it's not something that I think people need to start thinking about, because if they haven't built wealth outside of their business on their own, and they're not going to get anything from their business, they're looking into a future that's going to be far worse, far less or significant scarce than they're currently living. And we should always be looking in the future, looking at a bigger, more abundant future instead. So I believe that exit readiness is something that should always be top of mind, whether you are 5 years away or 20 years away. Make it a part of what you're doing, because it will pay dividends when you actually go to exit, and you'll have a much bigger future for yourself.
That's right.
Just to
And
pigeon on
tying into
that.
a principle.
Sorry, Richard. Go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, tying into the principle that Justin was talking about systems and processes and becoming the COO of your practice, that goes so much more than just benefiting your own single practice, because we work with an exit ready specialist named Rob, and he teaches practice owners how they can actually go out, leverage their own systems and processes, go out and acquire other practices, other clinics, and thereby increase their multiplier when they exit, because now they have multiple locations, and it just supercharges their ability to create that wealth for themselves and for their family. And so by having systems, processes, operations in place that you can then replicate into other locations, it's just going to maximize your potential when it comes time to exit.
Well said. Very well said. And that is just a very, very true reality. If you're listening to the show right now and you're thinking to yourself, like, well, I'm 30, 32, 33, maybe even 40, and you're like, oh man, that's so far down the road. I think that would be a regretful thought in possibly 15 to 20 years, because I think as a business grows, so does the momentum behind the business. And so if you have less systems in place now at, $500,000 a year in profit, and you scale it to $1.5 million a year in profit, it's going to be much harder to systematize then, and you're going to be older with less energy. So, I mean, if you're in that position right now, some tactical things too that we talk about, like, you don't need to be in all your marketing. You don't need to be in every photo. You don't need to be the person that greets the patient. You don't need to do all the day one. Like the first step is believing you can hire other people who are going to be as good as you, if not better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Chiropractors really, because they're really good at clinicians and they're so passionate about chiropractic that they forget that they're also running a business and they make themselves the business. And that's just, it's tiresome. They burn out, they get
It's
hurt.
risky.
It's risky. Everything's on them. If you can actually create a business, you actually create a higher ceiling for yourself, which actually becomes far bigger. It's less risky. You are working with a lot more people. You're still probably, honestly, getting the mission of chiropractic into more people because you have a limit on how many people you can see in a given day, in a week, in a year. If you can expand your systems to see more people, now you're actually helping more people reach their full vision of what you're looking to help them on the health side, which is really impactful. Like people need chiropractic, but if you become, I don't want to call it selfish, but if you view yourself as the only distributor of that, you've put a ceiling on how big, how many people you can help, how big you can go, and it diminishes your impact. And we have to shift again into thinking about the impact we can make, and having a really successful business actually increases your impact.
Well said. Very well said. A couple different topics for all the listeners today. A little bit of wealth, a little bit of tax mitigation, a little bit of wealth building in terms of reputation management, and now the exit, the ever-ending exit for sure. I like that approach though. Always have it prepped for exit. I could exit any time. That gives you're armed with ammunition. You know what I mean? Like you are in control instead of the business running the dock like so many of them does.
The one thing I can just mention here is the mindset here has to shift again. We have to shift out of this mindset that that's not possible for me. Too many doctors put this idea that, well, I can't buy another practice, or this is going to be too difficult, or I can't expand to that level of wealth. You have to shift into that it's possible because it happens all the time. Like just as an example, Marriott right now is going through a buying spree of a whole bunch of hotel brands. They bought Westin, they bought Hyatt, and they've bought Ritz-Carlton. The reason they're doing that is to increase the valuation of Marriott, but they're also now helping more people and they're increasing their overall revenue. People think that that's only for billion-dollar companies. They think it's only for people that are up at that level of play. I'm not there yet. I can't reach that spot. But the reality is it's available for doctors that make $500,000 as a $500,000 practice. It's available for the $1 million revenue practice. You can go acquire other practices, but you have to have set up the business first in order to do it. The reason Marriott's able to do that is because right as they buy those businesses, those other hotel chains, they just implement their systems right into them and it just flows naturally. They know exactly what they're doing. They just implement what is already working inside of their ecosystem and they apply it to that. So the business owner has to create that for themselves and then they can go replicate it everywhere. But what happens now, if you start believing that that's possible, is your wealth potential moves from, we'll just say that they pictured themselves as like $1 million wealth person, $1 million net worth. It moves from that to 10 million, to 20 million, to 100 million, because there's no stopping the growth that can happen once you believe that it's possible. Because you can acquire as many practices as you want. You could create a whole nationwide franchise or nationwide chain that's all your business that you've created, and you just keep implementing your systems into it. And it doesn't have to be this huge monumental thing that happens, but we have seen it happen in 5-year stretches where people go from one practice to 5, and now their practice was valued at 1 million, and now it's valued at 100 million. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility, and I think people believe it is sometimes. It's not even like that's why I mentioned at the very beginning, you have to make it the mental shift has to occur first. You have to believe that you're worthy of it, believe that it's possible, because everything's on the table for these doctors. There's nothing that's not.
Folks, that was it right there, lasered in some wisdom, some knowledge, think a little bit bigger, think a little bit bigger than you're already thinking, especially if you're coming up to that exit phase or within the next 15 years, like that's a good option right there, especially if it's proven, right? I think you look at private equity, I think that's what they do well. They'd say buy businesses that are already doing great. They come in, they make them better. So
yep. That's it. And we have the ability to help people do that. Like our exit coach that Victor mentioned, he's done $1 billion exits. He's been in the private equity world. He's been the business owner. He knows all sides of it. And we have a product and a system that can help people systematically go about doing this, not just willy-nilly, but really dial in everything they need to do. So this is very much doable for people. We just want to get the word out that let's expand our horizon of what's possible and start looking into how much impact that leaves. Like if you think about it's all we like to push it back to impact. How much of an impact can be left because you chose to go bigger? How many more people were helped and benefited from your touch because you chose to go bigger? It's not just your family, it's all the people that you're touching in all those offices. So it's a lot bigger than just trying to think about the wealth side of things. I like to think about the impact of it, and the wealth will come with it.
Well said, man. Very well said. So I'm sure somebody listening right now got some value from that. If you did, you got to pay the fee for sure. Pay the fee, share the episode, check out Big Life Financial. For you guys, like as we come to the tail end here, as respect out of your time, if somebody wants to get in touch with you guys, what's the best way to do that, man? They want to have the conversation around wealth, exiting, even reputation management. What should we do here?
Go ahead, Justin. I actually want to share one more thing real quick.
Yeah. So the easiest way is to go to biglifefinancial.com. You can go to biglifefinancial.com/Victor, and you can get onto Victor's calendar, and Victor can guide you through any of these areas. We'll do a free complimentary analysis of anyone's situation on the tax side, on the exit side, on the wealth management side. If they're wanting to look at their assets or anything of that sorts, we'll look at all those things. But Victor can help bridge that gap, and biglifefinancial.com/Victor is the way to do that.
Excellent. Victor, leave him with some words of wisdom.
And you guys can also feel free to reach out to either of us on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at vpribyl, Pribyl. Always consistent with my DM. So if you have any questions about anything we've talked about today, happy to answer any questions there. I want to leave you guys with one quick actionable nugget that you guys can take and actually implement in your practices regarding the reputation management. So whether you choose to work with us for or not for that, there's something you can go do. And I want to do a quick exercise. It takes 10 seconds. If I were to ask both of you who your chiropractors are, how would you respond? Like, who do you go to for your chiropractor?
I go to Dr. Richard.
There you go. Justin?
What was your question? I missed the first part. Sorry.
Who do you go to? Who's your chiropractor? Who do you go to?
Oh, Dr. Taylor.
Perfect. So we didn't plan this question beforehand, right, gentlemen? I just asked you out of the blue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys both gave me names, right? You didn't tell me the name of the chiropractic clinic. You gave me your doctor's name. So here's a nugget that you can go take and implement. There's a lot of practices that have Google My Business profiles for their practice name. Timpanogos Chiropractic, Alpine Chiropractic, doesn't matter what it is, but it's your chiropractor's practice name. But you guys can also have Google My Business profiles for your name, because I just asked them who their doctors are. One said Dr. Taylor, the other said Dr.
Richard.
I don't remember, but Dr. Richard, right? So when your friends, or sorry, when your clients are referring you to their friends, they're not telling them most likely the name of your clinic, or your practice. They're telling them your name. So go get a Google My Business profile for your name. Dr. Pribyl, Dr. Van Kampen, Dr. Maxwell, right? And that will double your ability to show up in the Google traffic rankings, Google Maps rankings. And you can also drive reviews to both of those. So it just allows you to be that much more findable, that much more searchable in your local area, and become a local authority amongst other docs. So that's something you can go out and implement today, and have an impact in your business.
Massive. Actionable, easy, not easy, simple, not easy strategies to wealth building. I think most of the listeners know on here right now that there's no magic tricks on this show. It's just a matter of disciplined and diligent work over a lot of years. And I think you guys are living examples of that. I really appreciate you guys spending time with us on the show. If you guys did get value, number one, go check out Justin, Victor, book a call with these guys. They're good people to have in your network. They're part of a lot of chiropractic groups. These guys have the reputation. They've proven themselves. Book a call with them. And if you did get some value from the show, hit that share button, pay the fee. We appreciate you sharing it. We grow by word of mouth. Guys, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Pleasure as always, Jeff. Thanks so much.